Hello movie barfs and welcome back to the channel. When it comes to Disney classics, a few titles tend to hog the spotlight, like The Lion King or Aladdin or Beauty and the Beast. But one movie that seems to get overlooked is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's actually one of the better Disney films in my opinion and definitely an underrated entry in the Disney Renaissance. I could go on a rant about all the things that make this movie work, but at a glance, here they are. Number 1. Quasimodo is such a sympathetic character. Hunchback gives us one of the most rootable protagonists in the form of Quasimodo. His backstory is tragic, with his mother being killed by the man who is the closest thing he has to a father now. He spent all his life alone, cooped up in a bell tower, and deep down he just wants to fulfill the basic need of being loved and accepted. His life takes a turn when he decides to attend a public festival despite the express forbiddance of his master, Frollo, and it's in this segment of the movie that we really feel for him. Right here, Quasimodo realizes that Frollo's warnings were true, that society would judge him for his physical deformity and ridicule him for his abnormal appearance. The scene where the crowd gangs up to humiliate Quasimodo was painful to watch, and at the same time it served to fast-track the audience's sympathy for such a tormented character. It was the crescendo of his crappy, miserable life, and it was an effective way to make us like the character. Not to mention, the film's specific use of colors here really helped to highlight the emotional depth of this scene. I mean, if you watch this segment and you don't feel anything, you'd better take a quick check on your pulse. I might be wrong, but I don't think any other Disney protagonist goes through the ringer like old Quasi here. If you know of any others, let me know in the comments down below. The whole time, you're just wishing the guy could get a break, and it's definitely one of the positive things about this movie. Number 2. Its mature themes. For a Disney film, this was dark, probably the darkest Disney film to date, and given the current state of the industry, it's likely to be for a long time. It tackles many mature themes for a supposed kids' movie, like the injustice and persecution resulting from social class, as seen with the gypsies being despised, the abuse and misuse of power with Frollo, the notion that the world is sometimes cruel and will often judge and ostracize those who are deemed different. Some of the themes are probably too intense for kids, like eternal damnation and lust. But then again, they may not get it when watching it at a young age. And deep down, at its core, it explores the concept of what makes the difference between a monster and a man is one's internal character, and not their external appearance. If Beauty and the Beast was the mild version of this message, Hunchback takes it to a whole other level that even adults can appreciate. And the ending of this film carries on the more mature tone from its immediate predecessor, Pocahontas. Quasimodo begins his journey of becoming a member of society, but he does not end up with the girl, and there is no happy marriage at the end. Number 3. Frollo was a complex villain. Frollo was one of the most memorable Disney villains, and rightfully so. While his motivation appeared simple with his lust for Esmeralda, he has other layers too. Frollo's part in his tale begins with Quasimodo as a baby, when his pursuit of a gang of gypsies inadvertently leads to the death of Quasimodo's mother. He intends to kill Quasimodo, but is stopped at the last second by the priest. There, Frollo spares baby Quasimodo not out of mercy or compassion, but out of guilt and fear over the state of his own soul. So while his actions appear altruistic externally, they're self-serving at the core. But over time, Quasimodo represents the last shred of kindness Frollo has. While Frollo is sadistic and cruel in other areas, he still makes it a point to shield Quasimodo from the harsh ridicule he knows he will face in public. Frollo is one of the most deceptively evil Disney villains. On a similar note to Gaston in Beauty and the Beast, he has everything going for him on the external. He's a respected judge and a key authority figure in Notre Dame. But deep down, he's as much of a degenerate as the criminals he locks up in the Hall of Justice. I especially like one of the lines from the opening song where it mentions that Frollo sees corruption everywhere but within. He's a hypocrite, an example of the corruption from absolute power, and perhaps it's the realization of this hypocrisy that eventually drives him over the edge. And the scary thing is that Frollo serves to remind us that people like him actually exist in real life. You may not see their flaws blatantly. In fact, they may be the so-called role models, but that makes them all the more despicable when they abuse the power and the people entrusted to their care. Number 4. Some of Disney's best music and voice acting. I think Disney scored a home run with the score and the voice acting in Hunchback. Right from the opening sequence, we hear the majestic sounds of the choir and the orchestra, and it's awesome. Maybe I'm a sucker for these epic soundtracks, but it really adds to that movie magic where it transports you to 15th century Paris, although it's just an animation. The songs aren't the most memorable, but they work in serving the mood and tone of this movie. The voice acting is also top-notch. Everyone is well cast and their voices help to embellish their characters, from Quasimodo's gentle nature to Frollo's stern and commanding presence. I didn't really have much of an issue with the talking gargoyles. It felt reasonable for the filmmakers to give Quasimodo someone to talk to when he's all alone up there, someone to bounce ideas off to. As a kid, I actually thought they were some real magical creatures, as opposed to just being figments of Quasi's imagination. I also sure didn't get the Victor Hugo reference with their names. Overall, The Hunchback of Notre Dame was an excellent Disney film, and it represents an approach I wish they would take more often. It's not the best one, but it sure deserves a spot amongst the top few. It was fresh and exciting and definitely one of Disney's riskier entries, and it certainly beats some of the stuff we've been getting in today's releases.